medical knowledge, contrary to the laws of humanity. I make this promise solemnly, freely, and upon my honor. Thank you. Left hand side bottom, under the signature part. Thank you very much.
And now it gives me great pleasure to invite Professor Harendra De Silva, the President of the Sri Lanka Medical Council, to address the gathering.
I'm going to talk about something which you may consider as a dirty word, as implied previously by in politics, right? But something which is important for us in day-to-day life, whether it be in family, workplace, or in society. There are 8 principles of good governance. Unfortunately, a lot of the people who talk or spoke about good governance never knew even one of these principles, and that was the beginning of the failure of the system. So out of the 8 principles, the first principle is that people have to be transparent. You don't hide things, you may hide your money, but not from the income tax, and so on, right? You have to be transparent in your work as a doctor, as a father, as a son or mother, whoever. And then there should be the rule of law should apply. Whether you are driving on the road or workplace or within the family. And then you need to be accountable to the system, and these are the 3 main principles of good government. And accountability means you are responsible for what you do or what you don't do. So I think it's important for you to understand this. All of you know about it, you probably practice it, but really do not understand the basics of good governance. Of course, there should be equitable society. It should be, everybody should be, on par. You don't have a lot of domination. You have to try to include people in your system, be inclusive, not exclusive. There should be consensus on decisions where people agree on decisions, and there should be participation. A lot of these things may be bordering on each other in terms of meaning. Participatory means everybody is involved in the participation or in whatever the decisions that are made. Of course, we are responsive in the sense we look at the feedback from different perspectives and then try to correct ourselves, and then finally it has to be effective. Now for these all 8 principles, now I have added something else. Something which is very important is monitoring. We should have a monitoring mechanism, because human beings can be so erratic, human beings can be so corrupt and non-accountable or unaccountable, and therefore there should be a monitoring system. Monitoring is what I call an essential prerequisite at every level of governance. And of course, transparency can reduce the need for monitoring. The need for monitoring can be reduced by when you are transparent. It's only when you are not transparent that you don't need it. Accountability will minimize. Impunity means breaking the law. Basically, everybody has to be transparent in their actions and be accountable to any lapses, with the rule of the law effective at every level. I will be repeating some of these things from time to time. And when I say everyone, it has to be everyone. That need not be only the lower level, but at the higher level as well. I'll come back to each one of those. And it is applicable if you take the population of the pyramid to government. All these accountability processes, transparency has to be include government. Companies, institutions such as including hospitals, And then you have to be accountable and transparent within your family. And of course, you have to be transparent to yourself and accountable to yourself, which is important. And we as individuals, right, should be transparent to ourselves with parents, siblings, partner, children, friends and society. In other words, we should not hide things from our wife or husband or our children. Our children should not do the same. And we should act within the norms of law set by family. I'm not talking about laws in the country. We are not talking about the penal code or anything like that. We are just talking about norms of family, which may differ from family to family, but most of it could be the same. So within all these players, and we should be accountable or be responsible or face consequences to ourselves, the parents, siblings, friends, society, and government. And then we have to be transparent at home, school, workplace, and then we have to be answerable to monitoring mechanisms of our performance and be accountable to any queries by our supervisor. I'm repeating so that I make sure that everybody gets it into their heads. For effective performance of society, from grassroots to government to hospitals to universities, it is imperative that everybody is transparent, acts to the rule of the law, and is accountable. Again, the same thing, but put in another perspective. Now, this is the grassroots. Each one, I put that governance thing there as a logo at the bottom. Then the second level, the third level, and at every point there should be governance. And then there should be monitoring, and people should be made accountable at every level. But the problem is at the top, monitoring and accountability. Today, WhatsApp and recordings can be part of monitoring, but accountability may not be all that good. So, if you look at the stakeholders, there are stakeholders in governance. It can be at a micro point or a macro level. So, of course, governance goes beyond government, although the name sounds similar, right? It is not just the government. But you see, the state has a role, and the legal legislation, which is the parliament and the people there, the legal inaction, and administration, as well as hospitals and so on and so forth. So we have to create a favorable situation there. The civil society has to be accountable, transparent, and so on. And then the marketing, the commercial areas also should do the same in terms of governance. Now, as I said before, it is not just politicians, it is us. For example, I'm sure in your medical school or during your internship, you have come across dysfunctional families. Sometimes some of you may belong to dysfunctional families with poor governance at a micro level. I'll explain that later. However, the responsibility of the government in this is to give an education to people, providing skills, provisions to bail out from a vicious cycle of poor governance or dysfunction, as well as monitoring and enforcement of the law, which should be applicable to everybody across the board, from politician to the man on the street. We have to also understand the real meaning of good governance without romanticizing the word and worshipping a word without knowing the meaning. Now, in a micro situation, you get a mother and a father in a family at the top, then we have the extended family, then we have children at the bottom, and then of course children again I put as sort of accountable governance bodies, and then the mother and father will do the monitoring of the children, And that would be in the form of keeping an eye on the children, and of course siblings can also keep an eye on other children. And grades in schools, your performance in school, and behavior, whether you're violent, fighting, with siblings or outside or friends, whatever, that will be part of the monitoring system. And then you are made accountable in the home environment, and that is to discipline yourself, to be disciplining the children. And then the mother and father, who is going to look after who is going to monitor the mother and father, not the children. Of course, mother and father will monitor each other. They will be looking at this one to see how things are going. And then of course the extended family will monitor the in-laws. And that can be one of the parts. And the monitoring systems may be infidelity, if you know what the meaning of infidelity is. If you don't know, go on internet and find out. Spending, wife is given a credit card and how she spends, so the husband is spending. And drinking, mostly husband, but sometimes the wife. Behavior, fights, and so on. And then you are made accountable to that process. And when you are made accountable, it might end up in a divorce. So that is accountability process, or separation, or consensus, counseling, whatever. But people are accountable in the family unit for even at the apex, not only the children. So at the same time, I must raise this question: can a father discipline a child for stealing from his purse when he steals public money by taking bribes? Can he do that? So you have to set an example. So that is where the transparency is important. And can a mother discipline a daughter for having a boyfriend when she is promiscuous in her behavior? So it doesn't work. And that's how the governance will work within the family. A breakdown in a family unit, that means a dysfunctional family, is essentially due to an unaccountable apex that is the parents or the guardians. At the same time, it is essential that the apex, I mean the parents, ensures the trickle-down effects of transparency, rule of the law and accountability to reach the grassroots, I mean the children. So same principles can be applied across any institution or whatever. If you take, for example, a hospital, you're working in hospitals, most of you. Then, again, if you look at the apex, you get the director at the top, the consultant, the house officers, of course there will be various grades of these doctors, then the sister and the nurses, and then the minor staff and attendants. Right? So, what generally happens in a ward situation is, again using the same model of, I'm talking about monitoring and so on and so forth, the sisters and nurses will monitor the minor staff and the attendants, and then make them, and the process will be attendance registers, punctuality, monitoring individually, delivery of samples to the lab, whether it is on time or not, log books that they have for various deliveries and so on, and then their behavior in general, and of course bribery. These are things that they will look after. But unfortunately, in that system, there is very little documentation. So because of documentation is poor, right, what happens is accountability also becomes poor. So if you look at accountability, you will find, you can, of course, when these people don't work properly, you complain to the director, right, maintenance, and then maybe some punishments, whatever. But due to poor documentation of processes, accountability becomes a problem at this level. Of course, everywhere is the same problem. Now, when it comes to the consultant and the house officers, the consultant will also monitor and make sure that there is punctuality, there is professional behavior, including examining patients and treatment processes, the ethical behavior of the junior doctors, the consultant will look at it. Or maybe sometimes with the house officer and the registrar, they will general level, but generally it's a consultant who is responsible for the monitoring process. And then the positive interactions with patients and staff. Now these are important things. So in terms of if none of these things are happening, what can happen is the consultant can refuse to sign up, report to director, or then maybe sometimes SLMC for various unethical behaviors and so on and so forth. So that process is there, but again documentation is not so good, and therefore accountability processes are not so good as well. And then the director will monitor the consultant, and then director will be monitored by the provincial director or whoever is on top, and then made accountable if so. But these things usually does not happen in our country, but we have to make sure it happens in future. And then can a consultant insist on punctuality of interns or house officers or SHOs when he is mostly seen in the private sector during working hours? You can't do that, right? And at the same time, can a director or a consultant insist on proper communication with patients and staff when he or she is abusive and arrogant to the subordinates? It can't happen, right? I can't shout at you and scream at you and then expect you to speak to the patients, because very often the junior doctors emulate their bosses. They behave in the same way as the bosses, and that can be a problem. So be conscious of that. So it is, however, although I have given these arguments, it is not justifiable for you to behave in the same fashion as a superior person. A breakdown in the functioning of a hospital or dysfunctional hospital is essentially again the same rule applies due to unaccountable administration. At the same time, it is essential that the apex should ensure the trickle-down effects of all these effects of governance to the interns or house officers, staff, minor staff, and so on. Now, this is again going back to the, now I went into micro situations, this is a mega situation. Now, what happens is legislature is the most important thing in this governance business, MPs, cabinet, parliament, and so on. And then it fits in with society, private sector, government, which includes hospitals and administration, right? It could be regional or central, right? And then the police and the judiciary also has to have the same process of governance. However, they should be independent of the rest of the system. Although policy, non-interfering policy can be instituted on the judiciary through legislation. But monitoring at all levels is important. And systems of monitoring would include CCTV, attendance registers, fingerprints, and so on. Then monthly annual reports. It's ideal to have independent monitors without conflicts of interest. Example, outsourcing external audit. Somebody else does it, so that there is nobody internal, because that's where the problems can come up in terms of accountability and conflicts of interest. So police is a part of the monitoring process, and the judiciary activates the accountability process. So that's the end result of that. Now when one person breaks the rules, for example in the ward, right? Somebody comes to work, drunk, or is abusive to patients, or whatever. And then when there is a poor monitoring and accountability process, when that person is not taken to task, nothing happens, then one by one others break the rule with impunity. They don't care about the law. So, everybody comes just in the same way or whatever, right? And so on. People, we have heard of doctors coming in shorts and t-shirts and so on and so forth, right? And then when that happens, again poor monitoring accountability process, nothing happens, it becomes a norm. It becomes a a normal fashion. It's nothing abnormal because everybody is doing it. Like going on the road, crossing across the double lines, right? Going across the traffic lights becomes a norm. So hospital also it will be that doctor shouting at patients is a norm. Everybody, patients also accept that it is a norm, right? And so it becomes then part of our culture, and that is how the culture can get eroded when we don't stick to these reasons. Of course, it is difficult to do this. If you look at this position, this point of time in Sri Lanka, the reversal of the process is not easy. We all have to agree to that. I know some of you are not Buddhist, that's fine, because principles of Buddha, which is a philosophy, is applicable across the board to everybody, right? And this is adopted by different religions as well. Now, we said that thoughts lead to words, good thoughts, or bad thoughts lead to words, bad words, and that leads to bad deeds, and it becomes habit. This is the parallel of what I said on top. And then it becomes character or culture, right? And then, how can we make a change? Could it be through United Nations or NGO global programs or government to educate people, strong laws or dictatorships, strong monitoring and prosecutions in countries, or may be somewhat effective if all are subjected to process of dictatorship. Everybody feels. Even the dictator is subjected to accountability. If that is so, yes, it might work. Not otherwise. And then, if you are looking at accountability, sticking to the law and transparency, it needs a lot of patient training in your mind. And you need to deliberate and be conscious in making that change within you, yourself. And it takes a long time and a slow process. And this is referred to as mindfulness. Mindfulness, again, remember, is nothing to do with Buddhism only. It is across the board, taken up by all religions today, is mindfulness. And this should be spread to the community by setting examples at the top, rather than being imposed top down through a fear process. That cannot happen. Somebody coming and screaming in the ward and getting things done, it will happen for that moment, but you will not change practice, because you will also, in the absence of that person, you will also do the same, behave in the same way. It should be planned process through of good governance or whatever, to make a difference over relatively long periods. It should be part of culture, like in Japan. Japan is a very good example. I'll give 2 examples before I finish. Now these are Japanese fans at the soccer World Cup, football World Cup. And these fans cleared the stadium of whatever that was thrown, right, after they won a particular match, right? And then other nations also followed doing the same thing. Nobody told them to do that. But it was a spontaneous reaction of fans that acted as a community with mindfulness, ensuring responsibility and accountability. Again, I bring in the Japanese culture and the relationship to Buddhism. Why can't we be part of this culture? Something like this. Without saying it's mindfulness, it shows mindfulness in Japan. A pregnant woman comes and speaks to the person in a queue, bus queue or train queue, whatever, says that I need to get in. I have too late or I'm late or whatever. And then he gives his place to that lady, but goes to the back of the queue. You think our people will ever do that? right? And then everybody perceives him and gives him a place. Thank you.
And it is my honor now to invite our esteemed chief guest this morning, Professor Janaka De Silva, Director of the Postgraduate Institute of Medicine, to address the gathering.
President of the SLMC, Registrar, my teacher, Professor Harsha Janiratna, fellow doctors. When Chandranatapattu asked me to talk to you about something, I didn't know what to talk to you about. So I started thinking, and as Prof. Harendra said, you all have got a big dose of ethics and so on in your medical curricula. You have gone through an internship and now you are RHOs and you really don't know the next step to take. So I thought I will give you a slightly useful, some useful information this morning with an ulterior motive, because I am the director of the Postgraduate Institute of Medicine, and I strongly believe that people like you who have come through the system after one of the most brutal examinations we have, which is the A-level, got into medical college, passed that, then done an equally brutal 1 year as an intern. I remember my internship. And then after finishing, you think, what am I going to do now? And I thought I will try to inspire you to try and do postgraduate studies. So my talk to you today is on postgraduate medical training in our country. So I'm going to start off this talk by this thing called the Dunning-Kruger effect. I don't know whether any of you have heard of this effect. So on the y-axis there is confidence, and on the x-axis there is knowledge in the field. So when you have no knowledge of the field, your confidence is like, what the heck is this? And then with a little knowledge, you suddenly think, I now know everything. So when you entered medical school, you were at the level. When you passed the MBBS, you are at the I know everything. Or that's what you think. And then, as knowledge in the field of your study grows, the confidence starts to go down. There is more to this than I thought. And at the time of sitting the MD, I am never going to understand this. And then like Prof. Harendra and Professor Harsha and me, it's just starting to make a little bit of sense. But you know, trust me, it's a very complicated situation. Nothing is the way it seems to be. So that is called the Dunning-Kruger effect. And you will be stuck in the I know everything part of this curve and making mistake after mistake if you remain only with your undergraduate qualification. Because the undergraduate qualification, undergraduate studies are only designed to introduce students to the knowledge base within a very specific discipline. A very basic knowledge of medicine, surgery, obstetrics, public health, you name it. When you come to the level that we are in, I practice gastroenterology, I actually take a step back when some patient comes and tells me, sir, my problem is a headache. My algorithms don't work that way because I have got so specialized in gastroenterology. So an undergraduate is a generalist who has a shallow knowledge of many fields that are part of medicine. And that is when you get a bachelor's degree, the MBBS. A postgraduate qualification requires a much higher level of understanding. Even at an MSc level, you will now slightly specialize towards your field. There is greater independence in your learning when you do a postgraduate study. And of course, the knowledge is far more specialized and deeper than when you are an undergraduate. And because of this, because you have a higher level of understanding, you are capable of greater independence in practicing your profession, not only medicine, anything else, and your knowledge is more specialized. Graduates who have a postgraduate degree are considered more qualified in that area. They are promoted to higher positions in their field, like from a probationary lecturer to senior lecturer to a professor. And equally important, the salaries also become higher. So the more you specialize and do postgraduate studies, you become a more important person in your profession than you would be if you just have an undergraduate degree. So there are lots of types of postgraduate degrees that medical graduates in Sri Lanka can obtain. And I am talking about Sri Lanka, not the world. So there are taught courses, postgraduate diplomas and master's courses. Then there are the research degrees for the research oriented among you, the MPhils, the DMs, the Doctor of Medicine by Research, and of course PhDs. And then there are the professional qualifications, which are given after intensive training and a small component of research, like the MDs that the PGIM offers. Most of our universities in this country offer postgraduate diplomas, masters, and PhD level qualifications. Almost all of our medical schools have these qualifications and courses that offer these qualifications. But the sole responsibility for medical specialist training leading to MD and board certification as a specialist is by the PGIM. So, for good or bad, we are on a monopoly. The PGIM, when I head a monopoly. So, heading a monopoly may be considered bad if it's business, but in Sri Lanka, I strongly feel that it should be for maintaining quality. Because if you have little PGIMs all over the country, we will never be able to monitor the quality of the courses and the qualifications that are offered. Which is why I think the government very wisely has said, okay, the sole responsibility for specialist training lies with the PGIM, but not master's level courses, not PG diplomas, not PhDs. Many other universities can offer those qualifications. So the PGIM was established in 1980, University of Colombo. You are a young doctors and you probably don't know. It's always good to know a little bit of history about an institution that I hope all of you will try to join. So this was this building in 1980. I was a third year medical student at that time. And this was all there was in the beach area, where my office is now, only this little building. It is governed, I'm sorry, I haven't got the photograph, I'll show you in a minute. So it was established in 1980. It is governed by a board of management of 25 people. The academic work is carried out by 23 boards of study and 35 specialty boards, and it is a truly national institution. So though it is a monopoly, it is not the monopoly of the University of Colombo. There is representation from all medical faculties, all teaching hospitals in the country, the University Grants Commission, and also the Ministry of Health. So it's a national institute from which the degrees are awarded by the University of Colombo. So this was the PGIM in 1980. I was a third or fourth year medical student. A little house, this was the old matron's house, the matron of the Colombo General Hospital at that time. I heard she was a pretty woman and the ghost is still walking about. I have gone in the night but never had the pleasure of seeing her yet. So now we have improved the PGIM. The infrastructure has increased, and this was the infrastructure during the first term of my directorship. And then of course we have this wonderful new academic center of Kota Road in a place called Rodney Street, which is a 8,000 square meter building, state of the art for you, not for me, with libraries, IT facilities, canteens, good toilets also, and lecture halls and so on. So it is now a top class postgraduate institute we can be proud of. So what about training and examinations? Right? Because buildings don't make an institution. So medical faculties, teaching hospitals, provincial hospitals, and even some district general hospitals are utilized by us for training. And why we have moved down the hierarchy of hospitals is to increase training opportunities for them. We don't want to limit it too much. Training and examinations are all conducted by external faculty. These are our trainers. The PGIM has only about 6 or 7 permanent academic staff. And overseas examiners participate in all our MD examinations. So there is Professor Arendra De Silva's monitoring function. They come and see whether our exams are of high standard. And because of this, some of our MD degrees are now recognized for registration by the General Medical Council of the UK. For example, MD Medicine, Pediatrics, Obstetrics and Gynae, Anesthesiology, and Surgery MD degrees are registrable with the GMC. We are hoping that psychiatry will also join it soon. And in a major achievement, our MD Surgery graduates are now offered the MRCS qualification from Glasgow without examination. So if you pass the MD Surgery, they are offered the MRCS Glasgow without examination. So that's the level to which these degrees are now recognized internationally. Maybe a good or bad thing. It gives our graduates opportunities to go to UK and never come back. But that's up to you. I don't believe that is a reason, that should be a reason why we should not get these recognitions. You should have the freedom and then use your moral compass. After most of you have had a free education here, a moral compass to say, I'm going to serve my country as well, at least for 5 to 10 years before I go, if you want to go. And our country is a wonderful place. Nowhere else in the world will trainees be looked after like this. The state sector trainees are funded by the employer. So the Ministry of Health, Universities and Armed Forces fund the training. So if one of you comes and pays an examination fee or a course fee, that is reimbursed by your employer. So though the PGIM makes money, the government doesn't make much money because they pay it back to you and you don't spend anything. So it's a sort of a funny free education system that has extended into our postgraduate education, medical education, and long may it remain, because I feel it's a wonderful thing that we give an opportunity for all our students, equitability, as Professor Arendra said, whether you are rich or poor, if you are good, to get in and obtain these qualifications. Not only that, if you are a post-MD trainee, they have a mandatory overseas training component. You have to train for at least 1 year in a center abroad. Even that is funded by the state. If you can't find a job, it is funded by the Ministry of Health, or if you are a university graduate, employed in the university, it is funded by the PGIM. So again, you don't have to spend money. And it has gone to a level which even I find slightly amusing. Warm clothing allowance. In my time there was a thing called a book allowance, but now there's a laptop allowance. All kinds of dhimana are given to you, in the hope that you will use this, get your qualification, come back and serve this country. Then what about the trainers? What about the people who are going to train you? They perform a voluntary service completely without pay. They don't get 1 cent for training you. And that is what has made the PGIM sustainable. Professor Harendra was talking about Buddhism, but one of the biggest Buddhist countries in the world, Bhutan, the Ministry of Health came to meet me and said, how do you do this? Because when we told our consultants, and there are about 20 of them, please train some of our postgraduates to do some postgraduate degree, the first question that was asked is, how much are you going to pay us for training? In addition to our work as in seeing patients and the service function. So we may not be as disciplined as Japan, but there are some things about this country that are absolutely wonderful. Here is a training, you get funded to do postgraduate studies. If you are good, you pass. If you are good, we give you money to go abroad to get your board certification, and all of it is done by trainers who do it free. They don't get any remuneration or any money for training or examining. And another thing, once you are board certified, you are not like some PhD in chemistry or zoology. Once you are board certified, you enter the specialist register of the SLMC now, and you are guaranteed a specialist post by the employer. If you become board certified in medicine and you are a Ministry of Health employee, you will be a consultant physician. If you are in the university, you will be a senior lecturer. If you are in the army, you are a specialist in the army service. If you can't get any of that, there are hundreds of private hospitals who will grab you because they are looking so hard to get young specialists to come in the private sector. So, you have it good. Don't leave this country. Okay, you have it very good. If you all are bright, if you are good in your work, the doors are open. The PGIM conducts 120 programs of study, and we conduct more than 130 exams a year, 34 MD and 81 subspecialty programs, 25 postgraduate diploma programs, 8 master's programs, and the workload is huge. From 2014 to 18, over 1,000 students enrolled each year, and currently, that is in 2019, there are nearly 4,000 postgraduates training in the PGIM. Not in that particular building, but all over the country in the teaching hospital complexes. And for those of whom you feel, my goodness, this internship taught me never to do this specialty. So for example, there are my wife, the vice president of the SLMC, did internship in medicine and surgery, and she said, I do not want to treat patients. I am going into microbiology, and she ended up as a toxicologist. So there are lots of opportunities, not only the traditional programs that we have, like medicine, surgery, obstetrics. We have started new programs and we are continuing to introduce new programs. Clinical nutrition, an important MD program as far as I am concerned. With on one hand, malnutrition in our estate sector, and on the other, overnutrition in our urban schools. Sports medicine, health informatics, the only MD in health informatics in the world. Emergency medicine, medical education, and so on. Master's courses in clinical toxicology, that's an online course. Pharmacology and therapeutics, molecular medicine. We are now upgrading the molecular medicine to an MD. and clinical genetics to a post-MD qualification. And postgraduate diplomas in a very important field for an aging population, elderly medicine, palliative medicine. And in a time when global warming is a huge problem, health sector disaster management, our trainees go to the field when there is a disaster. The ministry releases them to go and work when there are floods or droughts and so on. So this slide just shows the number of courses conducted by the PGIM. And from 1980 to 2019, you can see well over 100 over the last 10 years. And it's growing. The enrollments have also grown. Over the last 5 years, there have been over 1,000 students joining our programs. The dip is because of availability of training places. When we don't have training places, you can't take the number of people who pass, unfortunately. And then, if you look at the enrollments, the blue part of the bar is MDs. There are more than 450 MD students who join the PGIM every year over the last 5 years. So that's the number who join. The output is also good. There have been over 400 non-MD postgraduate qualified doctors coming out of the PGIM over the last 10 years, and over 350 MDs who come out of the PGIM every year. So the PGIM output has been phenomenal, especially over the last 5 to 10 years. And this is a nice graph that shows the different types of qualifications, from PG diplomas in brown, certificates in brown, diplomas in green, masters in light blue, and MDs in dark blue. And as you can see, more than 800, 900 students come out of the PGIM with postgraduate qualifications every year. And of course, this is what the government is interested in, specialist output. Over 200 specialists are board certified every year by the PGIM from 2011 onwards. And this year I heard it's closer to 300. So, the doors are open. You don't have to worry about how rich or poor you are.